Hello, friends. Hello, new viewers. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a brand new episode of Pigs to Bricks. And if you're new around here, hi, very nice to meet you. My name is Sylvia and I'm the creator behind Charm the Sam. And this is the series on my channel where I try to the best of my abilities to recreate real life houses and projects requested by you guys inside inZOI. Today's house is a request from Nuria and she asked for a romantic classic beachfront cottage, so of course I had to give it a try. Okie dokie friends, today's video is going to be a long one, so you already know what that means, right? Get comfy, grab a snack, something to keep yourself hydrated and enjoy the ride along. But before we start, a little disclaimer, I am pre-recording this video while I still am sick, so if my voice sounds a little funny, this is the reason. Anyhow, this house is huge. We're talking 6-bedroom, 4-bathroom, a sunroom, an home office, a garage gym, a game room, a laundry, outdoor kitchen, dining area, pool. I even added a wall. So you get the picture, right? It is definitely a massive home. And let me just say that this was a real challenge for me because my goal was to keep it modern but still have that cozy cottagey vibe. And you know how it is, from modern cottage to modern farmhouse is a very thin line. Now, technically, yes, cottage should be a bit smaller, actually way smaller. But in my defense, I did start with something small. The idea at the beginning, it was something cute and small. I generally don't know how it turned out so massive. It just happened, guys. Anyway, another thing you're definitely gonna notice that there is an insane amount of blue in this house. Light blue, dark blue, navy, pastel blues, you name it, basically every shades of blue imaginable. I also used a lot of soft line and pastel tone to really push that cozy romantic cottage feel. Anyway, as always, we're gonna start from the first floor on the front exterior, moving all the way inside toward the backyard and then move upstairs. So overall, the structure was actually pretty simple. At the beginning, I initially built everything on one single attached structure, as you can see, but then later on, I decided to separate the house from the garage. And this allowed me to raise the main house on a foundation while keeping the garage at ground level. From the outside, it still looks like a single build though, and that's thanks to the amazing grid system in this game. Technically, there is a tiny gap between the main structure and the garage, but practically, I cover it with one of our good old modern square columns, so basically it's invisible. Now, as you probably saw from the thumbnail of this video, the reference image had this big driveway connected to a walkway, and what really caught my eyes in this, it was the landscaping. I loved the way it contrasted so well with the light blue and white color palette of the house. So I knew I wanted the front yard of my version to feel interesting but not overwhelming. At the front, you'll find the driveway with the walkway attached leading straight up to the front porch. And for the landscaping here, I kept it very minimal in the central area, just a small section between the walkway/driveway and the actual structure of the house. And then I went heavier on the left-hand side. Also, to balance things a little bit out, I added a few flowers on the right-hand side of the driveway, just so it wouldn't feel empty on that side. I built this on 19 beachfront drive in Bliss Bay, and this lot already had bushes all around the edges, so adding just a few flowers helped the space to feel full but not too heavy. Also, I actually built this before the 1-year update dropped, so as you can see, the lot was a little bit smaller, and before uploading it, I had to go back and make few tweaks here and there to make it fit better inside the new size of the lot. Anyway, back to the landscaping. Of course, I added some fireflies here and there. And you guys, I honestly love how customizable these effects are. You can control how many there are, how fast they move, the size of the item. So it's such a small detail, but it adds so much atmosphere. Anyway, still on the front yard, on the left-hand side, I created some brown flowers bed. And let me tell you, I discovered something new doing this build. In one of my recent tutorials, I show you how to fake a flower bed using rugs, but I never realized that if you build on a foundation, the rug can actually intersect into it. While if you build on a platform or even on ground level, they cannot. but with foundation we can push them in as much as we want, which makes placement so much easier. So yeah, never stop learning apparently. I added a bit more landscaping, again nothing too heavy, and by the time I was done, the left hand side felt a little bit empty, so I built a custom well, completely CC and moss free of course. And right next to it, I added a small simple seating area, just a 2-seat sofa with some throw-out pillow and a side table with a lighting and some books on it. Now, I'm not so sure if the well leans a bit toward the farmhouse vibe or if it's just the right touch of rustic for a romantic beach cottage, but I'm gonna let you judge this, guys. Let me know in the comment section down below how do you feel about it, if you are team well yes or if you're team well no. Anyway, with that, the front yard was done, so let's move on to the front porch. This porch is not huge, it's just big enough to create some movement in the structure and add a little bit of curb appeal. It has a cozy little space with a small seating area, just a 2-seater sofa, some throw-out pillow with a couple of rugs underneath, and a side table with few decoration around. You'll also notice that both in the front and at the back, we have 3 empty pots. Those are mini apple tree. I felt like they fit perfectly visually the space and also added a little bit of gameplay, which I always like to include in otherwise decorative space. Still in the porch area, I also added an umbrella stand, a doormat, and in that small gap between the door bump out and the railing, I placed down a bonsai. Little note about the bonsai, if your ZOI doesn't have an high gardening level, unfortunately it won't appear when you download the house. You can either leave it empty or replace it with another plant. Unfortunately, I realized this only after uploading the house. I'm sorry guys. Anyway, to complete the porch, I then added some lighting and 2 ceiling fans. Oh, and before I forgot, back in the front yard, I also placed an easel with a stool. Obviously, not because the stool is needed, we all know the ZOI paint standing up, but it just felt a little bit more realistic. Usually when you see in real life people painting, they're kind of like half seated on a stool, so this is what I wanted to recreate there. Okie dokie, my friends, let's move inside the house. As soon as you walk in, you're greeted by a medium-sized foyer. Not too small, not huge, just the right size. I think this is one of my favorite foyer I ever made. It connects you to the main living area through 2 arches, the kitchen and dining and the living room. I actually did quite a bit of researches on cottage-style foyer and I love the layout where you only see part of the staircase from the entrance and then it kind of wraps around to go upstairs. Now, we do not have curved stairs, but I tried to recreate that same feeling for the main staircase here in the foyer, and I think it works really well. I then added some side table, a mirror, a few decorations, some puffer seating, a big rug, and yes, more blue. A lot more blue. At this point, guys, blue basically became the theme of the entire house. It just took over. But I mean, blue, ocean, beachfront, it kind of makes sense, right? But as always, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Now, from the foyer, the 2 arches lead you into what it's technically one big space, kitchen, dining, and living room, but I wanted this area to feel a little bit separated somehow without actually closing them off. So instead of a wall, I use 4 of the large square columns to define the space. On the left side, we have the kitchen and dining area, and on the right hand side, we have the living room. And that's why I kept the 2 arches to give each side its own entrance, even though it's technically, as I said, one big room. So, going through the first arch, we entered the kitchen and dining area. The kitchen is quite spacious with an L-shaped layout and a big central island. Style-wise, I went for something modern with a slightly rustic touch, very cottage-inspired furniture with those detailed cabinets that I choose that has different types, some with some doors and some with a mix between doors and drawers. I think they worked perfectly for this house. I then used one of the best stove available. I was really tempted here to create a 2-stove kind of kitchen, but it would look way overcrowded, so I focused on creating one solid full functional cooking area and used the rest of the space for all the other appliances. This kitchen is, as always, fully packed. Everything you might need is in there. For the upper section, I created a mix of wooden shelves and wall cabinet. I chose those super cute ones with mixed styles, some with glass doors, some with full close. They added so much character and fit perfectly with the lower cabinet. Even though they are different style, they send out the same vibe. Right in the center we have a big island, and since the kitchen is mostly white with black accent, I wanted to warm it up a little bit, so I introduced some wood tones, using them on the shelves and on half of the island. This way the island is half white and half wood, and at first I wasn't really sure about it, but the longer I looked at it and the more I liked it. Then I went in with tons of decoration. I had 2 pendant lights above the island and some wicker stool, another material that you will see me using a lot because beach cottage equal wicker. It just makes sense, right? And for the first time ever, I added a microwave because you know me, usually I go for stove, coffee machine, dishwasher, sink, fridge, done. But this time I wanted to go all in. But if you don't like the microwave, you can always substitute it with the modern rice cooker, which reminds me a lot of the Ninja air fryer. Anyway, once the kitchen was done, I moved on to the dining area. Now, the dining room is surrounded by windows and it faces the ocean, which I absolutely love. And actually, this is something that I changed midway through the build. At the beginning, the front of the house was facing the ocean while the back was facing the street. But since most of the living space are actually at the back of the house, I decided to flip everything around. So now the back of the house is facing the ocean and the front of the house is facing the street. But honestly, since this build was made for this specific lot, you can rotate it however you want. It really depends on how you like to have your lighting during gameplay. So for the dining area, we have a nice big table, 6 chairs, all surrounded by window as I said, and 2 pendant lights right above it. I wanted this space to feel functional, warm and cozy, but without overdoing it. So I kept it fairly simple, just the right amount of items to make it feel lived in without making it too heavy to the eyes. Now, between the kitchen and the dining area, we have a glass door that takes us to the sunroom. And let me just say, I love this sunroom. It's probably my favorite room in the entire house. Honestly, guys, I think I may have fallen in love with the concept of having a sunroom. They're the perfect in-between space where you can enjoy the sun, especially in the morning when it's not too hot yet. So it's like the perfect amount of warmth without suffering the heat. I don't know if it makes sense, but I think you get it, right? Anyway, in the sunroom, I created 2 main areas. On one side, we have a round table with 4 chairs, perfect for breakfast or light meals. And on the left-hand side, I created a full seating area. I added 2 sofas, a couple of armchairs, a coffee table, a rug, and a lot of plants. I really wanted this space to feel intentional, like a proper extension of the house. So on the wall behind the sofa, I also added some paintings to make it feel more grounded, even though it has that indoor-outdoor vibe with all the windows that surrounds the area. And because of that, this room gets lights all the time, no matter which way it's facing and no matter what time of the day it is. You always have natural light in this room. To complete the space, I added a ceiling fan, some lightings, and a few side tables with some decoration on top, and of course a door that takes you outside to the backyard. And this is where things got a little bit annoying, because when I added the door to go outside, I had to create a tiny little porch, just enough to make the door functional. But then when I was trying to place the handrail on the left hand side of the patio, if I extended it all the way to the angle, the stairs wouldn't place. Like, it literally didn't allow me to place the stairs there because somehow the game thinks that the stairs interfere with the rail, which it doesn't make any sense. I mean, I tried any workaround I could think of, moving the stairs, resizing, changing position, but nothing worked. So in the end, I had to surrender to the game and accept the tiny gap between the handrail and the stairs. At some point, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just not gonna look at it. Everything is fine. We're fine, Sylvia. Let's move on to the next area. So yes guys, game 1, Sylvia 0. Anyway, let's move back inside in the main living area. As I mentioned before, I wanted the kitchen, dining and the living room to feel separated without actually close them off. So as you could see before, I used those large square columns, painted them in white wood to create the visual separation while keeping everything open and airy. Now, the living room is very spacious. We have a custom-made fireplace, and here I was inspired by this design that I saw in a house tour sometimes ago, where the fire is right in the center of the fireplace, and on both sides you have a space where to store your wood. Since I couldn't create a proper wall between the windows to divide those sections, I used once again our modern square column to fake the separation. And then I add lighting on both sides so you can clearly see the wood stacks. The fireplace itself is actually very simple. It's basically a rectangular structure. Inside everything it's dark walls, dark ceiling to really highlight the fire lighting. And on the outside I use those white textured brick that looks slightly raised because they matched perfectly the color palette and the style of the house. Above it, of course, we have a TV, and for the seating area, I went in with a large comfy sofa setup. At first, I really wanted to use the largest L-shaped sofa, but surprisingly, it didn't feel big enough for this space, which is weird because usually that sofa takes over so much space and most of the time the entire room. So in the end, I switched for 2 3-seat sofa and add a couple of wicker puff and a custom coffee table. For the coffee table, I use 4 of the square side table that we got from the Chaya DLC and combined them together into a unique large piece. Then I added some throwout pillows, some decoration and 2 pendant lights just above the coffee tables. Once I was done decorating and adding plants everywhere to make the space feel really lived in, I moved to the left side of the fireplace. Here, I wanted to create something that felt both functional and intentional, kind of like a mix between a library and a minibar. You know those wall units with shelves full of books and decoration, and then at the bottom you have kind of a bar setup? That's exactly what I was trying to recreate here. Since on the right hand side we had the door leading to the first bedroom of the house, the left side felt the perfect spot for this wall unit. So I used some kitchen cabinets, customized them in a wood tone, add shelves with books and decoration, and at the bottom I placed one of those storage units, beautiful and modern. Then I added some glasses, some wine bottles and a few decoration, and that completed the living room. So at this point we have 3 doors in this area. One leading to the first bedroom of the house, one leading to the first bathroom of the house, and one leading to the home office. So let's start with the home office. The office is quite spacious and faces the front of the house. It's right behind the seating area that we have in the front porch. I created a large wall unit filled with books, decoration and everything you'd expect in a proper home office. The palette here is consistent with the rest of the house, wood, white and lots of plants and of course a lot of blue. I used the same storage piece again at the bottom in a light wood tone with a slightly vintage feel, which I think it adds the perfect mix between the modern and rustic for this room. For the center of the room, since we didn't have a large enough rug, I used 2 big rectangular rugs to fill the space. This is a very useful trick. If you do not have a rug that match the space that you're creating, use 2 or multiple rugs to create the one that perfectly match your needs. Anyway, then I added a desk, a vintage style chair in a soft blue tone, a computer and some decoration. I also placed 2 armchairs for extra seating, and instead of a full bar, I added a simple side table with some decoration and a couple of painting, a mirror, and that was it for the office. Overall, I think it's a dreaming office, spacious, bright, airy and fully functional. Moving on to the next door, this takes us to the first bathroom of the house. Okie dokie, this is a full bathroom, which is a bit different from what I usually do. Normally on the first floor of a house, I go for an half bath for guests, just the toilet and the sink. But since we didn't have enough space to create an ensuite for the bedroom, I decided to make this into a full bathroom instead to serve the first bedroom of the house. So it includes a shower, toilet, vanity, mirror, and some simple decoration just to make it feel a little bit lived in. I kept most bathroom in this house pretty minimal, except for the master, which is a bit more special. And finally, the last door takes us to the first bedroom of this house. This bedroom faces the back of the house and connects directly to the patio through a double glass door. It has a large window, so it gets tons of natural light. And inside we have a nice double bed, a couple of nightstand pendant lights, a dresser and a wardrobe, and few decoration all around. At the foot of the bed, I also created a custom bed using those beautiful Chahaya puff. I alt placed together 3 of them. Plus, next to the glass door, I had a bit of a empty space, so I decided to turn that one into a small reading nook. I added an armchair, a wall shelf with some books, and a lamp that acts like a reading light even though it is a floor lamp. Now, stepping outside to the patio, right in front of the bedroom, we have a cozy seating area with 2 sofas, 2 rugs, and a coffee table, some armchairs, some plants, and some decoration. I also added a ceiling fan and some coral decoration. You know those coral statue, I guess they are, that you find in the catalog? We have one white and one red. I used the white one out here because it fit perfectly the vibe. The rest of the patio is quite long and narrow, so on the other side, the one connected to the living room, I placed a chess table and a couple of chairs. Then I added some plants and those mini apple tree I mentioned before. They'll be empty at first when you place the lot, but after some care, they grow into these cute little trees that fits perfectly the vibe and the space. I originally wanted to add 2 armchairs near the stairs, but it felt a little bit too crowded. The space wasn't that much, so instead I placed down a guitar, and honestly, it completed the space perfectly like this. Okay, before we move fully outside to the garden area, we still have one last room on the first floor, which is the garage. Now, technically, as I mentioned before, it's a room detached from the main structure, but I still wanted this space to feel like a real functional room, not just an empty garage space. So what I did was I created a working area on the left-hand side of the room. I used some kitchen cabinet to build a wall unit, added some decoration to make it feel a proper working station, and then on the right-hand side, I placed down a work table. I'm still really hoping that one day we'll be able to fully customize work table to match the surrounding furniture, because right now they never fully blend in, but we work with what we got, right guys? Now, on the left hand side of the garage, I created a gym area. So yes, this house technically has an home gym. We have a treadmill, a weight machine, a punching bag, and some weight. And then, since I still had some space in the back, I added a few surfboards, because in my head, one of the kids living in this house is obsessed with surf. Like full personality, ocean, beach, surf life. Her room later totally reflected. To complete the space, I also added a water dispenser and a 3D printer. And then I went in with a ceiling light and a ladder, since we do have a second floor of this garage. Okie dokie, my friends, time to move outside. And let me tell you, here's where the drama started. So the first thing I did was carrying over the landscaping from the front yard all over to the back part of the house. And that was fine. But then I started planning the backyard, and I knew I wanted a lot: an outdoor kitchen, a pool, and of course a fire pit, because it's a must-have in one of my builds. The problem was that every time I tried to build it, the entire vibe of the house changed. It became too modern, or too farmhouse, too clean, too structured. I rebuilt this backyard more times than I want to admit, and at some point I just stopped and said, okay, this is not working, let's move to another area of the house, and then we get back to the backyard in a second time. So if later on during the video you will notice that the second floor is already completely fully furnished while I'm building the backyard, that's the reason why. In the end, I finally figured out a layout that worked. I managed to fit the outdoor kitchen, the pool area, and the fire pit while keeping that cozy, slightly rustic, cottagey vibe. And the solution was platform. I created a raised platform for the outdoor kitchen and then connected it to a lower platform for the pool. Since we can't build pool on platform, I had to keep the pool area to the lowest possible level. Then I created 3 narrow platforms to act as step between the 2 levels, so it's kind of like a layered background. For the outdoor kitchen, I originally thought about building a full structure, but then I realized that an open setup would fit better the vibe of the house. So I used a pergola, placed it on top of the platform, and built the kitchen underneath. Obviously, the outdoor kitchen is fully furnished. We got some kitchen cabinet, a sink, the barbecue, a few decoration, and of course the smallest fridge available just to make sure the barbecue is fully functional. Since there wasn't enough space for a full dining table under the pergola, I added some bar seating instead, so it still feels functional but a bit lighter and more open. Then, right in front of the outdoor kitchen platform, but on the pool level, I created the outdoor dining area. Nothing too fancy, just a 6-seat table, a few decoration and a couple of candles. Alrighty friends, let's move on to the pool area. I made this space fairly large but not oversized, and for the inside of the pool I tried something a little bit new. I used those beautiful tiles that give a very cottage meets Mediterranean vibe, almost a bit Santorini inspired. At first I used the same stone tile from the front yard for the pool deck, but it felt a little bit too cold and modern, so I switched it to wood, kind of a percale style finish, and it immediately warmed up the entire space. For the sunbathing area, I used those beautiful wicker chaiselong paired with light blue umbrellas and side table with a few decoration. Very simple, very relaxing, exactly the vibe I wanted for this space. Now, on the right hand side of the pool, the space felt a little bit empty, so I added 3 of those beautiful coconut shaped chairs. I obviously customized the cushion to match the light blue theme of the house, plus 2 round side table, few decoration, and finally we moved to the fire pit area. I really wanted this space to feel round and cozy, but since we don't have any round tool for the floors, I used the rug trick once again. I placed a large rug for the sitting area, and then I used 4 half moon rugs to create a circle for the fire pit. And finally, I placed the fire pit right in the center. Once again, here I used my favorite fire pit, the one that we got with the drop before the DLC Chahaya was released. But if you don't have it, you can definitely swap it with the rock one, which works perfectly here because it's very rustic, like the atmosphere that we are trying to create. Then I added some armchair all around and created a stone pathway connecting everything together, the pool to the fire pit area to the outdoor patio that it is connected to the sunroom. For the small patio outside the sunroom, I kept it super simple. It is a very tiny space, so I just added a plant, a sheer rug, and a rustic stool. And with that, we are officially done with the entire first floor. Oh, actually, one little detail before we move on upstairs. For the backyard, I used this wooden fence on a white tone, and instead of a gate, I used this beautiful arch, the one that got the branching ivy on top that I never used before, but I feel like it fits perfectly the vibe here. And honestly, this lot is surrounded by bushes, and these bushes already kind of separate the lot from the street. So everything I had to do is to make it feel more natural and blend in. I added few landscaping elements like flowers, some lantern, fireflies here and there. And to finish it off in that little empty space near the arch on the left hand side, I added some wood piles because you have the fire pit there, so it's kind of realistic that you have also the wood pile just next to it, right? Okie dokie, my friends, now we are officially done with the first floor, so let's move on upstairs. As I mentioned before, from the foyer we have the wraparound stairs that take us upstairs. Now, on this floor we have the master bedroom with an ensuite bathroom, the junior suite with an ensuite bathroom, the teen room, the kids room, the tiniest room I have ever built, the laundry room, and the other bathroom serving the rest of the room on this floor. And then above the garage we also have a gaming room. So let's start with the master bedroom. This is, of course, the biggest room of the house, as it should be. And we have a large double bed on each side. I used a little trick that I love where I push 2 nightstands together to create a long, unique, custom piece of furniture. The palette here is very consistent with the rest of the house, white, blue, and wood tones. I added 2 pendant lights, a big rug, and then I worked the wall behind the bed. I really wanted to recreate once again that panel wall effect where you have the bottom part one color and the top another color, but since we don't have anything like that in game, I had to fake it somehow. So I used one of those beautiful signs that we got from the other category, painting it white, and I placed it inside the wall just behind the bed. And honestly, I think it worked really well. Now, on the right hand side, I still has some space, so I added two dressers and a big mirror with some decoration on the dresser. And at the foot of the bed, I created a small seating area. I remember that I first tried adding a bench, but the space felt a little bit too empty, so I substituted with the nice seating area. Since the wall right in front of the seating area had the ensuite right in the middle, I couldn't place a fireplace there, but what I did instead was to create a custom angular fireplace. I used the same material that I used for the fireplace downstairs, those white texture brick and a black window, and the inside is completely dark to highlight the fire. Since the angle wall wasn't large enough, I didn't have space to place a TV on top of the fireplace, but I really wanted to add a TV on this room, and what I ended up doing was to switch the ensuite door, and this gave me the perfect space to place a TV right in front of the bed and the sitting area. For the seating area, it is fairly simple. I added a two-seater sofa at the foot of the bed. I gotta say, I struggled a bit to find the right one. None of them felt like perfect for that space, but then in the end, I finally settled on one and I moved on. I created a custom coffee table. Once again, I reused the nightstand and pushed them together side by side to create a unique custom piece. Added some decorations, some plants, and I was all done with the master bedroom. Now let's move on to the ensuite bathroom. Both the bedroom and the bathroom face the back of the house, so ocean view for both of them. Also, if I'm not wrong, this is the only bathroom in the entire house that does have a window. All the other bathrooms, they don't, because they're very interior, and I always try to prioritize the window space for the rooms that, like bedrooms and office, that they actually have gaming, and not for the bathroom. So yeah, this bathroom, it is very special. Here we have a bathtub, a double vanity, a toilet, some decoration, and a big rug. Another feature that the master bedroom has is a small balcony facing the ocean. This is a very tiny space. I just added a couple of plants, a yoga mat, and a stool. Very simple and very relaxing. Okie dokie, let's move on to the junior suite. Now, this is the only other bedroom of the entire house that has its own ensuite bathroom. The bathroom is quite simple. We only have a vanity with a mirror, a toilet, a walk-in shower, and few decoration. Okay, let's move on to the bedroom itself. This is the room of the surfer girl that I was talking about earlier. So I went in with a pink, blue, and white palette, and I really wanted this room to feel like a teen space with a lot of personality. I placed down a large double bed and customized it mostly, as I said, in white, pink, and blue tones. At the foot of the bed, I also added a nice pink puff and one of those wicker baskets, the round one, perfect for this kind of vibe. And then I tied everything together with a big rug. On each side of the bed, I used a double nightstand trick. Once again, added some lamps and a large painting above the bed and few decoration on the nightstand. I also created a wooden accent wall right behind the bed to give it more deep to the room. Then we have a desk with a professional computer, some wall shelves with some books and some decoration, and since we don't have a proper surfboard object to hang on the wall, I kind of faking it using two painting and placing a picture of a board across them to make it look like a one full surfboard. On the left side, I added a guitar, and on the right, a mirror. And since on the left-hand side of the bedroom, right next to the bed, felt a little bit empty, I used it to place a dresser with some decoration, a mirror, and another painting. Also, at first I used a rectangular rug for this room, but then I didn't really like how it looked, so I switched it for 3 round rugs, and it immediately made the room feel more playful and less serious, more like a real teen room. I also added a trophy decoration because in my head she competes in surf competition and she won. Okie dokie, moving on, we have the tiniest bedroom I have ever built. I don't think you're gonna see me building it because I had to get some footage, otherwise, you know, the video would be like a day long. But it's nothing too, fancy. We only have a single bed, a nightstand, a lamp, a few decorations, some painting, and I also added in a wardrobe, a desk with a computer, and a nice armchair, and some shelves with some books and some decoration. As I said, this is the tiniest room of the house, but it does have its own balcony that's facing the front of the house. The balcony itself is a tiny space, so I only went in with few plants for some decoration. Now, right next to it, we have the kids' bedroom. This one is a normal size bedroom, not small, not huge, just the right size. It also faces the front of the house and gets plenty of light. For this room, I went for an under-the-sea theme with dark blue tones and ocean theme painting. I added a single bed, a nightstand, tons of toys, the beautiful dresser with the basket-style drawers and decoration everywhere. Teddy bears included, even though, tell me if this happens only to me. Every time I playtest the houses, the first thing my Zoe do is going and throw away the teddy bear. Like, excuse me? I place them with love and care and you just delete them? Please tell me this is not only my game. Anyway, I also added a gaming tent and a lot of windows. Overall, it is a very cozy kids room with everything a kid might need. Alrighty, next we have the shared bathroom for this floor. This one is the bathroom used by the kids room, the tiny room and the teen room. It's fairly simple. We do have a shower, a couple of vanity, mirrors, a toilet, decoration, just the essentials. And finally we have the second teen room. For this one, I imagine the teen living here be really into photography, but not like just like an hobby. This is what they want to do. They want to be a photographer. So the theme here is definitely photography. I kept the palette consistent with the rest of the house, blue, white and wood tones, and I added a nice double bed, a couple of nightstands, few decoration and lamps, and there's also a dresser, a wardrobe and a desk with a professional computer. And since the theme here is photography, above the bed and around basically the entire room, I placed tons of photos. Imagine this like a personal portfolio of the kid living in this room. To complete the space, I added a tripod with a camera, and since I didn't have enough space for a full bookshelf, I used a small wall shelf, the smallest we have, with some book and some decoration. Overall, it's not a huge room, but it has everything: a bed, a storage, workspace, and a lot of personality. Okay friends, still on this floor, we still have one room to check out, which is the laundry room. As soon as you come up the stairs, you find it immediately to your left. It is actually pretty spacious with a couple of windows and everything you'd expect from a proper laundry area. Once again, in here I added 2 washing machines because in my head, if you have a laundry room, you need both a washer and a dryer. But since we don't have a dryer in game yet, I just used 2 washing machine to kind of simulate that setup. The palette here is more on the wood plus fresh greenery side, a bit lighter compared to the rest of the house. I added some cabinet, a sink, some decoration, and also all the cleaning supply, vacuum mop, everything you need to clean your house. I also placed the first aid kit here because honestly I never know where to put it. It's kind of big and kind of ugly, so it is kind of hard to match with anything, so laundry room it is. Anyway, with that we are officially done with the house, but not with the property. Because we still have one last room, and that is the top floor of the garage. As I mentioned before, the garage is detached from the house, so this is technically its own little space. I didn't want to leave this floor empty, especially because it would look weird from the outside, but most of all because I didn't want to waste a space that could be playable. So I connected it with a ladder and turned it into a gaming room. Now, it's not a huge space, but definitely enough to create a cozy gaming setup. I added a desk facing the front of the house and a gaming PC, a comfy chair, and a lot of decoration. Very gamer vibe going on here. Then on one side, I placed a ginormous TV with those drop-shaped puff, and I also added 2 dart, I think machine, I guess they're called. I'm not really sure. Oh my god, you guys, I love darts. It's so funny, and it remembered me of when I was living back in the UK, playing darts in pub with friends, trying to win drinks and food. Honestly, some of my best memories. Anyway, I also added some bookshelf on each side, some neon signs, speaker, rugs, and that completed this little gamer layer. And with that, my friend, we've reached the end of this build. Now, as I said in the beginning, this was supposed to be a small cozy cottage. I really don't know how it became this big. It started simple and then one thing led to another, the sunroom, the extra space, the gaming room, and suddenly here we are. But I do think it still kept that romantic, cozy vibe we were going for at the very beginning. Nuria, if you're watching this, thank you very much for your request. Please let me know in the comment section down below if I got close to what you had in mind or if I went way overboard. It has been a pleasure to build this for you and I really hope you like the final result. And now guys, as always, I am dying to know what do you think about the house, about the structure, about the entire idea. What's your favorite part of the house? What's your favorite room? Do you think the wall at the front is way too much or is the right amount of coziness that we needed in this build? Please let me know everything in the comment section down below. You already know that I love reading your feedback, getting your thoughts, chatting with you. So please, sorry, my voice is completely going kaput. So please don't be shy, leave me a comment in the section down below. And if you want to be part of the next episode of Pix to Bricks, post your house inspiration in the community tab along with a small description and I'll do my best to bring it to life inside inZOI. Okie dokie, my friends, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave it a like. It really helps the channel to grow and maybe share it with a fellow player or friends who might enjoy this video too. And of course, if you're new around here, consider subscribing and join this beautiful community. We are building something really special here and I'm so grateful to have you all on board with me. Alrighty, my friends, that's all for today. Enjoy the rest of the video and I wish you all a fantastic rest of your day and I'll see you in the next video. I love you guys. Bye bye.